Hey guys, Jim here. Time to share with you now another acquisition that I received at Blade 2014. And yes, I realize it's pretty much the end of July at this point, and it's taken me way too long to do this, and I apologize, but I've been so backed up with so many things going on, and there were a lot of knives that I picked up there as well that I just haven't had the time. There are still knives from Blade that I have not done yet, so I'm going to try to get to those as quick as I can. This one is a pretty special one for me anyway. This is made by Mr. Robert Carter, whom most of you will know, but some of you won't. Rob is, think of it this way. If you're thinking to yourself, oh, another no-name maker that I've never heard of and who knows what kind of quality he's doing. I own it and I've kept it, so obviously the quality is great. But he comes from a rather prestigious family. Maybe you've heard of Joe Pardue and Mel Pardue. Well, that's his father and grandfather. And that's where he learned the art of knife making. And he began doing like gentleman's folders and things like that. And he's now that he's doing his own thing, he's really fallen in love with the whole tactical knife thing, in particular now flippers. He did a great collaboration with Chad, with Alpha Hunter, did a really cool knife there. And he really gained popularity, I think, from that. More people found out about him because of that and because of the wonder of Instagram. And that's how I found out about him last year. And he wasn't really taking orders, but I begged and I pleaded and I begged and I pleaded. And I said, I'm in no hurry. Whenever you can ever slip me in, if it's a year or two from now, I don't care. And he says, okay, I'll go ahead. I'll put you in somewhere. I'll kind of pencil you in. And when I have time, we'll do something. Well, in the meantime, I obviously began my Diamond Jim's Live Knives project and brought Robert in as one of the makers providing knives to sell to you guys. And we had such a great success. He brought out a prototype and it was awesome and it was just a fantastic ordeal. And he says, listen, he goes, I'm getting a little bit of a lull and I have time to finally make your knife. Which one do you want? I said, I'm really still looking at the F16. The F16 is badass. I saw the one that Mike had done, Terra Fanatic. It's on his channel. And I just loved that knife, but I want to go a little more extreme than his. He says, okay, well, we'll do that. He says, well, what do you mean by extreme? I said, I love the carving pattern that you did on Mike's knife. Obviously, I don't want to replicate that, so, Mike's knife is still special. I said, but I definitely want carved titanium. But I said what I loved about it was when the light hit it just right, all the satin finished areas, the high areas, were nice and bright, and then all the valleys were a little bit darker. I said, can we actually go into black? He's like, yeah, so you want like a black and white look? I said, yeah. So he did this really great gun coat. So he gun coated the entire frame, everything black. And I'm sorry, he carved everything first, then he did the gun coat, and then he obviously went over on all the highs, all the flats, and did a really nice satin. So you've got this two-tone black and white effect, very deep carvings, by the way, even in the pocket clip, and it kind of gives you like a wild zebra look to it, and I love it. Now, the one surprise he had for me that I was not expecting, I knew that we were going to be using S90V steel. I'm a big fan of S90. Really, really, really fantastic wear-resistant properties. But what I didn't expect was this. 220 thou thick. Now, this is a blade that's just in between 3.5 and 3/4 inches. So this is not a giant knife. It's 5.5 inches when it's closed, and it's only 8 inches when it's open. This thing is insane, or 8.5 inches, I'm sorry. This thing is just insane with how thick that freaking blade is. And then he did the extra carving into the blade and did a very subtle gold and bronze ano. You almost don't see it unless it's in the right light. Very aggressive design, Americanized tanto. Incredible grinds. And this thing is sharp as shit. I've been using this quite a lot, carrying it quite a lot. the smoothness of this thing is crazy. Fast flipper, great detent. Bearings are obviously doing their job. Everything's nice and smooth. So what you've got is a knife that looks a shitload bigger than it really is. It's actually a fairly compact carry. Let me give you some size comparisons here to knives that I had that are in the same range. My David Mosier Crossfire, which is a 3.5. And you see it's nearly as compact as the Mosier, even though this has a very, ever so slightly larger blade, just a teeny tiny little bit. My Mac Kuchera Dorado. A lot of people have Dorados, so hopefully this will help you with the size comparisons. There you go. And basically, just because of the thickness, I'm going to show it up against my Ramon Chavez Redencian. Now, we all know the Redencian, thanks to its famous pocket clip. One of the things that everybody loves about it is what a tool it feels like because it's so massive and thick and chunky. So what you've got here is a smaller knife with as thick, or maybe even very, very slightly thicker blade stock, with a contoured frame that's more compact and easier to carry. That doesn't take away from my absolute love of my Redencian, not at all. But it gives me the opportunity, the days that this is just a little bit too big and a little bit too heavy, that I can carry this. Now, it's still heavy. I'm not going to lie. It is a massive chunk of steel in there. But it's a lot easier to carry around on some days. Lightning fast. Just a great, great job on this. If there was any one thing I would change is, and this is, I've been saying this on a lot of knives with a lot of makers, is I would just eliminate the jimping back here on the frame. And reason being, when you engage your flipper, that's where your finger wants to go. And it's not overly sharp, but there is definitely a little bit of tooth there. So you will feel it on your fingertip. And that's it. And the thing is, most knife makers don't think of that because they don't feel it. The tips of their fingers are dead. They're calloused. I mean, these are guys that work with their friggin' hands all day. So they really don't feel little things like that. But for your average Joe, everyday guy that may not be working with his hands all day, you're going to feel it. That's it. Everything else I love about this. And I realize that the pattern and the color choices that I've made here are certainly not going to work for everybody. But I love it. I love it because it's different. I've been striving to make sure that each and every knife in my collection is unique. I have no other knives carved in black and white, period. And actually, I have no other knives that are done with gun coat in the handle as well. So there's something about this that allows it to be special because of the way it looks. It feels a bit different in the hand than most of my other knives. It's definitely more of a utilitarian knife. It doesn't have the ergos you would expect out of a more quote-unquote tactical style knife. This is definitely more of a working style knife. It's very tough. Obviously, that blade stock is very impressive. Being S90, it's going to hold an edge for an extraordinarily long time, longer than most of your comparable steels, S30, S35 VN thing. And the S35 VN was developed to be a much more wear-resistant variation of S30. And this goes so far beyond that, it's not even funny. It's also going to be a rather tough steel as well, so slightly less chance of microchipping on the edge than those other steels as well. So if you're looking in the range of steels where you're spending about the same amount of money, CPM 154, S35 VN, you're going to spend a little bit more, obviously, for S90, but it's going to work out better for somebody that actually uses their knives. Listen, if you're just holding onto your knife and it just sits in a display case all day and you may carry it occasionally, that doesn't matter. You could have 440C, VG10, it doesn't really matter, because all those steels are going to serve your purpose just fine. But if you are actually carrying the knife a lot, and there's a chance that it might get used on a regular occasion just to cut even normal, basic, everyday things, then, the wear resistance really is going to be a big deal. And I knew this was going to be an EDC style knife for me, something that would go in the pocket rather often. So for Robert to give me that option to use S90, I'm very, 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 very pleased about that. So anyway, it's going to be a somewhat short, quick video. I just wanted to make sure that I got the chance to sit down and do this video and profess my love for the knife. I think it's incredible, and having the chance to have met Robert at the Blade Show. And that's the other thing, Rob, I did not expect to have the knife done in time for Blade, because, I mean, he was literally working on it like a week or so before. And I got a text message from him when I was sitting in the pit on Friday night, the night before the show. And he says, "Oh, I got a surprise for you." I said, "Dude, there's no way that you actually worked on the friggin' knife." He's like, "I finished it about 6 hours before I got on the road or started heading toward the show." He worked all the way up until he had to leave to make sure I had this in time so that he could hand deliver it to me. And to me, that speaks volumes about his character. He is probably one of the most humble, super friendly guys you'd ever want to meet. He does not truly understand just how talented he is. He does not truly understand how important it is, or at least I should say how appreciated it is. He obviously understands the importance. He doesn't understand how appreciated it is that he takes the time that he does to speak with his customers, to collaborate with them, and to come up with something that's special and unique for them. Because you got to realize he is not a full-time maker, which is why his books aren't open, which is why it's really, really, really difficult to get a knife made by him. He has a full-time job. He's a ship's captain. I mean, like big, giant freaking boats. He has a whole crew working for him. I believe he told me he is actually the youngest in the history of his company to be captaining a boat. So he has tremendous responsibilities, and that job takes him away from home for long periods of time. I think he said he's getting ready to shove off now for like 5 or 6 weeks on this next adventure that he's on. You know, so he has very little time to sit down and make these knives, let alone keep designing new ones. Well, I would think the designing part he could probably do while he's on the boat. I don't want to say that. Maybe he's got time, middle of the night, nothing else is going on, he's awake. He could probably sketch out a few things. But as far as making knives, short of finding a way of bringing a friggin' grinder onto the boat, he has very little time to be able to do this. So when you are able to get on his books and you do actually get a knife from him, it's even that much more special, because there are so few people out there that are going to have the opportunities to own his early work. Now, I'm very certain in the future he's going to be able to go to full-time knife making. I do believe that is an aspiration of his. And when that happens, dude, when the floodgates open and he opens his books, get on them, seriously. But for right now, if you ever find one on the secondary market, you're going to pay a lot more than the initial price was, but it's so well worth it. Not only because of the fantastic quality, but the fact that you do own something that is by nature very rare, just because he doesn't have the time to make them. So I'll give you some quick close-up shots here, and then we shall exit out of the presentation. Beautiful job all the way around. And everything is completely done by hand. He's not using CNC or water jet or wire EDM. Traditional styles of knife making, as he has learned from his family. And he's put a completely different spin on his products. Definitely breaking away from family traditions. But I believe with the same degree of quality and precision that his family is known for. All right, guys, there you have it. Thank you so much for joining me as always. Follow me if you can on Instagram. It's at Jim Skelton TV. Also, follow Robert. It's Robert Carter Knives, at Robert Carter Knives. Go check him out and see all the cool shit he's been doing. And don't forget also to check out my buddy Mike, Terra Fanatic, T-E-R-A, Fanatic, for the maybe 4 people that are watching right now that have never seen Mike's channel. Super awesome stuff, great guy, and if it wasn't for him and his video on the F16, I might have gone into a different model, but I'm so glad that he highlighted his, because now I've got one for myself and I couldn't be happier. See you on the next video, guys.